right. It's another day. It's another episode of Your Daily Scrum, the daily show where professional Scrum trainers, Ryan Ripley, that's me, and that guy over there, Todd Miller, where we come together to try to help you level up your Scrum practice, help give you a good swing thought for the day, and hopefully lead to some awesome products in the future, right? Todd, how you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Ryan, how are you doing today?
It's a good day, man. It's a good day, and you know what? A really good question, right? Question came in on, so basically, guys and gals out there in YouTube land, or if you're on a podcast, or if you're on the scrum.org website or the Agile for Humans website, I have no idea where you're watching this anymore. It's just spread out into the internets, in the interwebs. But these questions are all coming from you, right?
Yeah.
We scrapped our backlog, and we've got plenty from all of you. And the question today we're going to consider is, what is the most important Scrum event? Which is most important, right? What do you think, Todd?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question, and I think that I imagine that you and I are universally 1,000,000% aligned on this to say all of them.
Yeah, we it's kind of like kids. You never reveal which one is your favorite, right? No, I'm just kidding. We don't have favorite kids. We don't have favorite Scrum events. The big point here is we might have a favorite to facilitate. Maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as far as the most important event, each event has a very specific purpose. And those purposes come together to form the framework. They lead to an increment or hopefully some insights about delivering increments. And so no one event is more important than the other, but they all have a specific purpose, right? Sprint planning is trying to come up with that initial plan for the sprint and to create a sprint backlog and to have a sprint goal, and trying to have that, that collaboration and that initial plan and that whole team understanding so that we can get, started on working on an increment the right way. The daily Scrum. Todd, what do you think about the daily Scrum and its purpose?
Yeah, right. It's to inspect progress towards the sprint goal and adapt a plan for the next 24 hours while we're making the work well known and what we need to do to accomplish the sprint goal, right? So I just keep thinking empirical process control and how Scrum is purposely built for that. And then moving on, I guess the next one we talk about would be the sprint review. Right. Yeah.
And if you notice how we go from sprint planning to starting the sprint to the daily Scrum to monitoring our progress towards that increment that we're trying to build, it just these events build on each other. Right. And so in sprint review, now we're taking a look at what we built and we're checking the market conditions and the budget. We're collaborating with stakeholders. We're making sure we're aligned to the needs that we're trying to meet through creating an increment. And then ultimately we're going to hit this sprint retrospective, Todd.
Yeah, and that's an opportunity for us as a Scrum team to inspect our relationships, our definition of done, and ultimately adapt with 1 to 2 continuous improvement items for the next sprint, right? So there's a lot of stuff that we can inspect in there as far as our process and the people within it to adapt to be better in the next sprint, right? So I keep using, both of us keep using inspect, adapt, and transparency because all of these events are based off of empirical process control. They're opportunities to inspect an artifact or a commitment to that artifact, adapt accordingly, and then make that artifact and the work that needs to be done or the work that is done transparent.
Yeah, and all of the 4 events we've talked about, they're all happening within the sprint, right? They're all happening within the 5th event, the sprint, which is the container event. It's the cadence for the work. It's giving us these great opportunities to inspect and adapt. And so, all these five events come together to bring empiricism forward. They are all 5 opportunities to inspect and adapt and to make artifacts transparent. So as Todd said, it's all about empirical process control. And these events are immutable. We do not conduct Scrum with 4 out of 5 events.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't change the purpose of the events, and we don't change the inspection and adaptation points. These are all happening together, right?
We don't merge the events together, which we commonly see as an anti-pattern, that people merge the sprint review and the retrospective. 2 very different objectives in those events. So we don't merge them together.
Now, just so that we're not total bah humbuggers on the question, right? We want to make sure that, because I think the listener or the viewer had a purpose in the question. So I will say this, but we do have favorite events to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Todd, when you're in the Scrum Master role and you're helping to facilitate one of the 5 Scrum events, which one would you say is your favorite to facilitate, and why?
This probably lends itself to the theory that I'm a robot, right? Which I really love the sprint review. Yep. I really love the adaptation to the product backlog that we get through conversations and inspection in the sprint review. That may stem from my experiences in the trenches as a product owner in the past, or helping product owners as a Scrum Master. But I really like the sprint review where stakeholders come in and we're really collaborating, trying to decide on considering where we are now, what the future of the product holds, and having that collaborative session there, and making sure to involve developers as well, right? They're not just flies on the wall, they're active participants in this and sharing what their experiences are. So I really love the sprint review.
Yeah, it's a good event. My favorite to facilitate, probably not surprisingly, is the retrospective. I love the sprint retro. I think this is it is pure joy for me to get to step in and work with a team and figure out and help them figure out, right? Not me figuring it out, but working with them to figure out the most important way to improve for the next sprint, and using, different formats and different prompts and different questions and different powerful questions and different, ways of using silence and all this. I think we bring all of our skills to bear in this event to really try to bring forward the most improved. It's not enough to just find something we could improve, right? I mean, there's 1,000 things that we could nitpick on this video and improve, but what's the most important thing? And I think that's the difference, right? That's where I think a great Scrum Master comes into that retro and really pulls out and helps draw the team into this environment where they can really find that big thing to fix or to change. And I love that challenge. And I think that is just a fascinating event to me. But they're all great, they're all needed. They all have a purpose. And there is not one that is more important than the other in Scrum.
Yeah, I think this is something I'd love to hear about in the comments, right?
Yeah,
What is your favorite event to facilitate and why, right? And I want the why behind it, not just, I like to facilitate the sprint review and that's it. We want to hear why. Why is it?
Yeah, which is your favorite? Leave us a comment below. If you have questions, why did we answer this a certain way? Why are we taking this direction? Leave it in the comments. If you have another Scrum question, leave it in the comments. I don't know if you've all noticed, but we're pulling questions from the YouTube comments. If you want to hit us on Twitter, at Ryan Ripley. Todd, what's your handle?
Todd_Miller11.
And so you can use that weird handle as well to try to. There's many different ways to get questions to us, but if you send us a question, I think we're going to end up making a video out of it. And so comments below, probably the best shot. But I think that is today's Your Daily Scrum. So let's take a look.
With my weird Twitter handle.
With your weird Twitter. Yeah, we should put it on this end screen just so that people can see it. But please do check out the socials. At Agile for Humans on Twitter is also a great way to get questions to us. You know what? If you want to stay up to date with Your Daily Scrum, hit that smash that subscribe button, hit that bell so that you get alerted when we drop a new video. We do bring them up every day. And so it would be great if you subscribe and get that alert so that when we've dropped the next question.
Yeah, ding that bell.
Ding the bell. But thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Like we keep saying, the numbers are going up, and it's all because of you and your willingness to share with your teams. So we appreciate that. Thank you so much. Again, Ryan Ripley, professional Scrum trainer with Scrum.org. That's Todd Miller, who is with me. And we'll see you tomorrow.